Hello everyone. How are you all? Hope you're good. Today, we are going to look at the conceptual framework of GST. You know what is the framework of GST in our country? Dual GST. However, the Kelkar Task Force, which was actually formed in 2004, it was asked that tell us what should be the framework of GST in our country, what should be the structure. So he suggested there should be a national GST. Right. And that was the only reason why GST was not implemented in our country. Do you get it? GST came in 2017 and this suggestion came in 2004. Why didn't GST come into effect for so many years? Why? Because the suggestion was that the GST framework would be a national GST in which all the revenue will go to the central government. Guys, how can the state government tolerate this? Because the revenue that was generated in the GST, part of that revenue should have some share for the state government. Because the state government also had to forego some taxes due to this. VAT, CST, this was also being subsumed to GST, being merged with the GST. All right. So it was 2014. When BJP came into power, during that time, central government decided that the GST that we would bring in, it would be a dual GST. Meaning we will divide and share the revenue. The revenue will be divided between central government and state government. It will be divided at the same time. If there is 1 rupee GST, then 50 paise each for both. Every single rupee that comes from GST, both will get their share. When this point came up, when the central government declared this, only after that state government agreed to this. And GST came into our country. What is the framework of our country? What's the structure of GST? It's dual GST. However, in most countries of the world, what is the structure of GST? It is national GST. Right. Let's see. GST has been implemented in India on a dual structure basis. That is, the center and the states shall have concurrent power to levy, collect and administer GST. The GST system has two components, central GST and state GST oblique UT GST. There are two components of GST system, central GST and state GST oblique UT GST. The central GST, state GST oblique UT GST would be levied simultaneously. This will be levied together. It's not like sometimes CGST is levied, sometimes SGST is levied, that in GST revenue from some items goes to central and revenue from some other goes to state. No, the levy is simultaneous. Every single rupee that comes from GST will be shared by both of them. Every transaction of supply of goods or services or both, except the exempt supply. Some supplies are exempt. See, I had already told you that our country is not a capitalist economy, it's a socialist economy. Our country is very much concerned that even the poor has to survive. Hence, the government is not imposing GST on everything, they're excluding everyday items. Even the poorest person buys it, the government doesn't levy GST on such items. Those supplies become exempt supplies. Right? So exempt supplies won't have GST. It says that the supply of goods, services or both will attract GST except for exempt supplies and the transactions which are up to the prescribed threshold limits. Not just GST. All the laws that prevail in our country, right? You know, small businesses are facilitated in that they are not brought under the tax net. Because the poor, small business owners who are doing their business, will they manage their business or manage the taxes? Do you think those who run small shops or do business on street side carts, because that is a business too? Okay, so will they be able to handle GST? This will be very difficult. If we talk about providing services, then who are they? Like electricity at your home. Now, the person who works would come, right? Like an electrician would come, a carpenter would come, a plumber would come. When there's any small issue at home and you call them at home for help. They're providing those services. Do you think they'll be able to manage GST? No. So the government has set a threshold limit. The businessman up to this threshold, they won't collect GST, neither they will collect GST nor will they pay it to government. So number one, GST is not applicable on exempt supply. No matter who does the exempt supply, even the biggest of traders, there is no GST for exempt supply. What is exempt supply? Some goods and services will be specified by name. If this supply is happening, then GST shouldn't be charged, no matter who the supplier is. The second point, if he is a small business owner and he supplies anything, be it any goods or services, GST won't be collected on that. Now, who is a small businessman? There are 3 limits, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs. 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs. Primarily, there are 2 limits, understand it this way. 10 lakhs and 20 lakhs. All right. Some states have adopted 10 lakhs limit, some have adopted 20 lakhs limit. If the supplier's turnover is over 10 lakh rupees, only then he will be under GST. He will register and collect GST. Some states have adopted 20 lakh rupees limit. Threshold is up to 20 lakhs. Any businessman with turnover up to 20 lakhs is a small businessman. He'll be excluded from GST. Okay. But now there is another limit of 40 lakhs rupees. But this threshold applies to those who only supply goods. Pay attention, if you are providing both goods and services or only services, then limit is 10 and 20. Okay, now some states have said that if you are only a supplier of goods, for that we set a limit of 40 lakh rupees. If he does business up to 40 lakh rupees, he is considered a small trader. And we don't have to take GST from that trader. Right? Although don't focus too much on how the limits are set or what they are or whether you should read all of this. No guys. Just to understand this limit, there's a whole chapter on it, registration. When you have to register under GST. And just to teach that, I think 6 classes will be required. So, do you think that's it? It's over? No, it's just a brief overview to get an idea about the threshold limit, like what it is. I wanted to explain that businessmen with turnover up to a certain limit. It is ruled out and kept out of scope, so GST is not collected. That's it. What is that threshold limit? 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs. Right. Let's go. Now here comes the taxes. In the GST, which are the taxes that will be collected? CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST and many more. First, let's talk on this. Place of supplier. And the other thing is the place of supply. Remember these 2 words, place of supplier and place of supply. Where is the supplier from and where is the supply happening? If the supplier is from UP and the supply is also being done in UP, place of supply means where the goods are going. Okay? Where are the goods going? The supplier is from UP and is selling goods within UP. He is selling it in UP itself. The place where the goods are going is a place in UP. So, if the place of the supplier and the place of supply are the same, so do you know what this supply is called? This supply is called as intrastate. We call this as intrastate supply. The tax that is levied on intrastate supply, what tax will be levied on this? And the tax that will be levied is CGST plus SGST. Right? I also told you that when SGST is levied along with CGST, we call it as GST and we also write it as SGST. But each state says GST has a different meaning. Like if a business owner in UP charges as GST, so its name is UP GST. This is GST, which is SGST. It's not just one tax that's levied in every state. This was a UP supplier, right? So this SGST means UP GST. If this was a supplier from Bihar, then what would the SGST mean? It would be Bihar GST. Right? CGST is only one. CGST is CGST. That's it. And if the supplier is from UPN, the place of supply is Bihar. So this supply is called an interstate supply. This is called as an interstate supply and IGST is levied on it. Okay? Right? How is the revenue from this tax distributed? Who gets the CGST? We're talking about the one above. Who will get CGST? This CGST will go to the central government. Okay. And who will get the SGST? Who will get SGST? SGST goes to that state. In the state in which the goods are consumed. It's a destination-based consumption tax. The state where consumption is happening, where the goods are reaching, that state will get the tax revenue. Since here it's both UP on both sides, we need not put much thought into it. This is the UP government's revenue. Right? This SGST here means UP GST. Okay? It is UP GST. And this will go to the UP government. Okay? Now this is IGST. IGST will go to whom? IGST will go half of it. That is 50% to the central government. Okay, this money will go to the central government. Then the distribution takes place, the settlement is done. How does the central government distribute? The amount of money received from IGST, half of it will be retained by central government itself. Half of this transaction will go to whom? Tell me quickly. Will it go to the UP government or the Bihar government? Half goes to the state government, half goes to the central government, whose money is half of it. Destination-based consumption tax. Remember, GST is a destination-based consumption tax. Where is the good being consumed? In Bihar. It will go to Bihar government. Sometimes a thought comes to students' minds. I'll tell you. Do you know what is it? When half is for central government and half for state government, then CGST and SGST should be applied everywhere. Why government created so much confusion around it? That when interstate is happening for no reason we need to apply IGST. Why do they call it IGST when you're just splitting 50-50? I'll explain. UP's businessman, to whom can he pay taxes? UP's businessman is selling goods to all the states across the nation. Yes? He is selling goods in UP, also selling goods in Bihar, also selling in MP, also selling in Maharashtra, also selling in Kerala, also selling in Tamil Nadu. Do you think it is possible for a businessman who is based from UP that he keeps paying taxes to different state governments? No, the government is actually simplifying it. Government is saying to businessman from UP, when you sell goods in UP, you have to pay your government, so give half to us and half to your government. It's done. When you are selling to another state, give us all the money, no problem. The state you are selling to will give half the money to them. You need not worry, I have all the money from all the businessmen. I'll collect it all, we'll see which goods belong to whom and from which state, we'll distribute all of it. Does everyone understand this? He is a businessman from UP. He needs to pay the tax. To whom will he pay the IGST? To the government. He has taken it from the buyer. This was the buyer from Bihar. Okay? He gave the GST to whom? GST was given to the UP trader. Now the person from UP will pay to who? The person from UP who is a trader. He can either pay taxes to UP government or to the central government. Okay? So he won't be able to pay money to every single state. So the trader from UP is being told to take IGST. If he would take CGST, SGST, pay attention. What problem would he face if he would take CGST, SGST? CGST is paid to central government, and to whom would the UP trader pay? SGST, his own state government. He would deposit it to his own state government. But this was not his state government's money. This belonged to Bihar government. So that's why IGST is levied on the interstate. So take and apply IGST and get the price, then give that amount to the central government. Tell them where this transaction happened, as this will be reflected in the return that transaction was from Bihar. What will the central government do? Keep half the money with them and give the other half to Bihar government. Okay? Let's do a little practice with you. I will tell you that what is the place of supplier. Secondly, I'll also explain you what the place of supply is. So, you will then say which tax will apply. Okay? Number 1. Would you like to tell me through comments? What tax will be applicable to which one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Write it like this so that I can understand which answer you've answered. Right? And if at all your answer is wrong, please don't edit your answer. Okay? In the same answers reply, write I was wrong or I was right. Okay? Don't get nervous or anxious. No problem if you get it wrong, it's fine. It's completely okay. The supplier is from Delhi. He is selling goods in UP. The supplier is from Delhi, selling goods in UP. Tell me one thing, what is Delhi? What is Delhi considered as under GST? It is considered a state. This is an interstate transaction happening from one state to another. There are 3 union territories that have their own legislature, have their chief ministers, and under the GST law, they are given the status of a state. When we talk about states under the purpose of the GST, we don't talk about 28, we talk about 28 plus 3. That's 31. Okay? So this is an interstate transaction. IGST will be applied. Second, goods are sold from Delhi to Delhi. What will be applied? Delhi is a union territory, but it has the status of a state, right? So within meaning, as it's the intrastate transaction, CGST plus SGST will be levied. Third, Chandigarh. To Chandigarh. Okay, now tell me, what is Chandigarh? What is Chandigarh? Is it a state or union territory? Union territory. Which one? One without legislature. Okay. This is a UT which is considered as UT itself. Okay. Tell me what will be applied. Don't tell me, but write it. Please write it. Pause the video. You should pause the video until you finish writing the answer. I hope you have written. This. Within state transaction, what will be applicable? Sorry, I mean within union territory transaction, what will be applicable? CGST plus UTGST. Okay, let's move on. Okay, Chandigarh to Lakshadweep, let's take it. Both are union territories without a legislature. Okay, union territory to union territory. Look. One state to another state, one union territory to another union territory. If anything happens like this, then it's called interstate and IGST is applied to it. Okay? Just keep this in mind, that one state to another state or one union territory to another union territory or one state to a union territory or a union territory to any state. All these transactions are called interstate and IGST is levied on them. Let's summarize this once more. Rest in within if union territory is without a legislature within union territory. If it's without legislature, then CGST plus UTGST. The one within the state, what will it be, friends? Within the state, and I mean within state, and also I mean within a union territory with legislature. On this CGST plus SGST will be applied. CGST plus SGST where it is applied. Would you like to write it? Write down. Number 1. Within state transaction. Number 2. Within UT with legislature. Okay. Where is CGST plus UTGST levied? Where is this levied? This is levied within UT without legislature. Okay. When is IGST levied? One state to another state. Second, one UT with or without legislature. No matter which UT it is. Okay, to another UT with or without legislature. Okay, and third, one state to another UT with or without legislature. Okay. You also know who gets the revenue. CGST. GST levied by the center. The central government levies it on the intrastate supply of goods or services, or both would be called as central GST. We call this as central GST. CGST means central GST. SGST, state GST is what we call it. GST levied by the state on intrastate supply of goods or services, or both would be called as state GST. State under GST law is defined to include union territory with legislature. So a union territory with legislature is also a state. Thus, on every supply of goods or services, or both within the union territories of Delhi, Puducherry, Jammu and Kashmir, state GST will be levied. It is saying that if within the union territory of Delhi transaction happened, or happened within the union territory of Puducherry, or within the union territory of Jammu and Kashmir, so it would be SGST, which means state GST would be levied. Okay? Okay, we call it SGST because the Delhi's businessman, when applying SGST, it means Delhi GST is levied. That's why there is no debate. Because where is the businessman from? Wherever he is from, he would be applying that place's GST. Whenever he applies his GST, it means his state's GST is being levied. That's why this is not an issue otherwise. We call it SGST, but what is its actual name? It is that state's GST. Right? UTGST. On every supply of goods or services, or both within the union territories of Andaman and Nicobar Island, Lakshadweep, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu, Chandigarh, Ladakh, the Union Territory GST will be levied. So you will have to remember all of this. Okay? Right? So there are 5 UTs that are treated as UTs actually. Okay? Right? It means that within those Union Territories, meaning if the transaction is happening in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, so the supplier is also from Andaman and the recipient is also from Andaman and Nicobar. Supplier is from Lakshadweep and recipient is also from Lakshadweep. What will be levied then? CGST plus UTGST. Okay? Okay, who gets the revenue of this UTGST? The respective UT. It goes to that respective UT. Okay? IGST. On every interstate supply of goods or services or both, integrated GST will be levied and collected by the center. Collected by the center, pay attention. It would be levied and collected by the center, they won't keep it. IGST shall be apportioned between the center and state. Then it will be divided between the center and the state. When we deposit the amount, it goes to the center. But the center then shares it with the state, in the manner as may be provided in due course by the GST Council. So as soon as the GST Council recommends it, the distribution will be done in that way. For now, what is the method of distribution? The IGST is shared half by the central government and half by the state government. The state government, which state government? It is the state government where the goods are actually consumed. Come on guys, now let's talk about import of goods or services or both. Okay? Import of goods or services will also be considered as interstate supply. Right? Keep this in mind. Import of goods or services or both shall be treated as interstate supply and would be liable to IGST. Let me explain it to you first. What is this? India. If goods are coming from outside of India, goods are being received here. Okay? So what will happen? And also if in case services are received externally from outside of India, services are received. So what will happen? If goods are coming from outside India, they're coming from outside, then the Custom Act governs it. Which means GST doesn't govern it. If goods are coming from outside India from abroad, the Custom Act is levied upon it and you have to pay the customs duty. But if you're getting services from outside, do you know what tax you have to pay? Are you paying attention to this or not? Generally what we do when we sell goods, we collect tax. But in the case of imports, what's happening is that the person who is receiving the goods is paying tax to the government. Pay attention. We import goods, we have to pay taxes to the government. And if we import services, meaning when we are taking something from a foreign country, then the receiver has to pay the tax. Right? So you can also keep this in mind, like this is basically a reverse charge. Right? So what is happening? Within India, the one who sells collects the tax on the goods they sell and gives it to government. Okay? Now pay attention, why is this so? Because where will that foreigner pay tax in our country? Will they even pay or not? Why will our government get tensed? They'll take the tax from whoever is buying the goods, right? That person is in India. If a foreigner sells goods in India and doesn't pay tax to the Indian government, where will the government go to collect it from him? They're saying that goods and services from all over the world are being sold in India. Where should I go to reach them? Let's do one thing, let's catch the Indian guy. You received goods? They say yes, so then pay tax. You took the service. Yes, then government says pay taxes. So this is basically a reverse charge, but now we need to pay attention to which tax is applicable on what. Customs Act is applicable on goods. And on services, the GST Act applies. The GST law applies to this. Okay. So if the service is imported, what is it called? It is called an interstate supply. It is called an interstate supply, so what should be levied? IGST. Let's be clear. And when the Custom Act applies, then, so the Customs Act has nothing to do with the GST laws. The Customs Act applies to this, and the Customs Act states that the BCD will be levied on the import of goods. BCD plus IGST. Please listen very carefully to what I say. When we actually import goods, right, that's when we pay BCD plus IGST. But this IGST that is being levied here, that is not being levied under the GST law. This law is being levied under the Customs Act. The Customs Act says, listen very carefully, there is a huge difference in this matter. Please do not get confused here. You might think that GST law is being applied to the import of goods, but no. If someone were to say such a thing, it would be wrong. IGST is being applied, but don't say that the GST law is being applied. What is applied on the import of goods? Customs duty applies, right? Customs Act is applied on it. And what does custom duty mean? BCD and IGST. Combining these two, we call it customs duty. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'll repeat, IGST tax will be levied on the services under the law of GST tax. But when you will import the goods, the Customs Act will be levied on those goods. So you will have to pay the custom duty. What does the custom duty mean? BCD and IGST. So when we import goods, we pay IGST, but it is not under the law of GST. Which law is applied? Customs Act. Right? What does Customs Act states? It states IGST is levied as much, because question is how much IGST will be levied. IGST is levied as much, as if the goods were produced in India. Did you understand? If this pencil we are using, it was made in India, and if it has a GST rate of 18% levied on it. But if it's imported, what will be levied on it? BCD and IGST will be levied. How much BCD will be levied? That's written in Custom Act. Same for IGST, it's written in Customs Act. But what's written? That as if it was produced in India, and then IGST that was levied, same IGST will be levied on imported goods. Okay, so if this was made in India, how much was it? 18%. So when we import it, how much IGST will we pay on it? It's 18% IGST. Along with that, one more tax is levied, that's BCD. Right? So same tax will be levied. Who said this? Who stated it? The GST Act? No. Who said? Customs Act. Right? Let's see. Since GST is destination-based consumption tax, IGST on import shall be levied and collected by the state in which goods or services or both are finally consumed, used. What's going on now? Let's see. The services that were imported, let's say it's from UP. So the IGST that was levied on it, half is for central government and half is for UP government. Okay, so you need to see where the importer is from. The state importer is from. The IGST that he will pay on import of services. Who will he pay? Half to central government and half to state government. However, he'll not give half-half. He'll pay IGST and entire amount will go to central government and revenue will be divided. Okay? Where the importer is from, you can understand that half of revenue goes to that state government. IGST on goods imported into India shall be levied and collected in accordance with the provisions of Section 3 of the Customs Tariff Act 1975. This is what I am trying to explain you, that this IGST, which will be levied on goods, that will be according to Customs Tariff Act. Now what is Customs Tariff Act? In Customs Act. Customs Act states the law, and Tariff Act is another law that always states the rates. It's stated in the Custom Act that when will duty be levied? How will it be levied? When will this be called an import? Okay, it tells about all these things. Customs Tariff Act tell what will be rate of duty. At what rate will duty be levied? It's duty. This is the duty of this law. To state rate of duty. Okay, so it has already stated rate of BCD, all of it. What it has stated for IGST. For BCD, it has stated that 20% for this item, 15% for this, 18% for this, whatever. And for IGST, it hasn't stated rate. This law has stated that rate mentioned in GST Act, same rate will be applied to this. The rate of GST that is according to GST, the rate of GST according to law of GST. That same rate of GST will be applied through the Customs Act as well. Okay, when we import an IGST is levied on it, it will be levied at same rate. At the point when duties of customs are levied on the said goods under Section 12 of the Customs Tariff Act. And what does Section 12 of Customs Act say? When will it be imposed? When will it be levied? Levy means to impose. When will it be imposed? This rate will be stated by Customs Tariff Act. And this will state when it will be levied. When it will be levied? Okay. So this is also clear to you. Now let's talk about export of goods and services or both. Goods are going outside of India. This was case of import. This was import. Look how the arrow is pointing here. Arrow is pointing in this direction. This arrow. Here. It's coming in India. Now we're going to talk about something else. Now we're saying that no, it's not looking good. Now goods are exporting. Either goods or the services. So friends, this will be called as export. And this is supplied at zero rated. Is that clear, students? Export is considered what? Zero rated. There's no tax on it. In fact, it's not just our country that doesn't charge tax on exports. No country in world charges tax on exports. Every country wants its goods to be sold in other countries so that money can flow to our country from other countries too. Our country will become strong only when we can sell our goods in every country. Right? That's how we can bring money from outside to our country. Then only our economy will become strong. So, every country's government promotes and encourages this. It says if you are an exporter, sell goods, no tax will be taken. So that our goods become competitive. Now tell me, our goods are worth 100 rupees if government levies 20% tax on it. It is now for 120 rupees, then we can't sell it abroad. You know why? Because they are getting goods for 115 rupees. Government says remove this 20 rupees, your goods are worth 100 rupees, sell it like that. So that people who are buying for 115 rupees, they will buy your goods instead. Right? So basically see, if taxes aren't levied, then obviously goods will become cheaper. We'll sell goods at lower price, we can sell more. So every country encourages exports, our country is also doing it. Export is called zero rated, memorize it. The zero rated supplies. Okay? You do not have to pay any tax on this, clear? When we say zero rated, so there's another word that you should not be confused with. And because it's completely different. Nil rate of tax. Nil rate. Or we can also say 0%. We write it like this, 0%. And another, you just studied this term, zero rated. Zero rated means export. Don't get it wrong, students, don't get confused. And these two are the same thing whether you call it as the nil rate or as the 0%. Nil rate. It's not zero rated. Zero rated, it's export. Nil rate or 0%. This means that the rate of duty, or let us take the rate of GST. The rate of GST is 0%. The rate of GST on that item itself is 0%. Government doesn't charge GST on it. Whether it is sold anywhere in India or outside India, it's 0%. Like I told you, government gives exemption. So this it goes into exempt category. This category will fall into the exempt category. This is exempt category. I hope you heard this word exempt. GST is not levied on exempt supplies. Okay? So this is one of the exempt supplies. 0%, like some items have 0% GST rate. Tax isn't levied. Anyone can sell anywhere. Anyone can sell, big businessman, small businessman, anywhere in India, outside of India. If they sell the good to anyone, anywhere, and there's no GST levied on it, then it is called 0% GST. Okay? 0% or nil rated. Okay? And what is the zero rated? The zero rated means export. Okay? If we sell any item that is taxed at 28% in our country, if we sell it outside India, will it be taxed? No, it won't be taxed. That is zero rated. Okay? And the meaning of nil rate? Well, the rate of duty, the taxes on it are nil. You can sell it anywhere, anyone can sell it. Tax isn't levied. Just not outside of India, sell it anywhere if it has 0% tax rate, then sell it anywhere there's no tax on it. And what does zero rated mean? That if you sell it outside of India, the rate of the tax will become zero. Okay? So even on those items that are taxed in India at any rate, whether it is 18%, 28% or whatever. Understood? So what's the difference between these two topics? Get a little more clarity on this. Look, so you were explained previously by me that you get to deduct the input tax from the output tax. Okay? And the remaining balance that comes is the GST you pay to the government. You already know this input tax is deducted from output tax. First, we talk about nil rated. What will happen in nil rated case? So what will happen in case of nil rated? Or nil rated or 0%, it's the same thing. What will happen in this case? Output tax will be 0. Did you pay at least any input tax? Yes, guys. When we would have purchased it, we might have paid at least some taxes on it. Okay, you might ask when the GST on one item is 0. So even while buying and selling at both the times it will be 0? Yes, absolutely, that will be the case. But it is also possible that we buy fabrics and sell the shirts. Yes, we buy fabric and make shirts to sell. It doesn't happen, but let's say 5% of GST is levied on fabrics. And suppose it is 0% on shirts, just assume this. So when we sell shirts, then GST won't be levied. Output tax is nil. But there's input tax, right? We bought fabric and paid 5% GST on it. So this was something, let's say this was 5 rupees. So now this will become GST payable minus 5 rupees. So will the government give you this 5 rupees? Will the government give you this 5 rupees? The answer is no. You will not get this ITC. You will not get this input tax credit. If the tax on your output is 0, memorize it like this. If tax on your output is 0, then input tax doesn't reduce at all. Okay? You might also be wondering how it can be input tax if we're selling an item X. On output tax is 0, for example, if we buy calculator and then sell it. If calculator has 0% GST, then output tax will be 0 and input will also be 0. When did I say it's not true? I'm saying it's true. But sometimes it also happens that we purchase the X material, process it, and then sell it as Y. X was taxed, but Y is not. So if Y is not taxed, it is 0% GST, meaning output tax, which is 0. It will be deducted from this. How much is input tax of X? It will be as much as amount you paid. So, will government refund you the money that is coming in minus? Answer is no. Because if tax on output is 0, then you don't get input tax rate. Now let's discuss. 0 rated. 0 rated output tax will be 0 because 0 rated means 0% is levied on export. Tax isn't levied on export. Input tax, let's say, is 5 rupees. So this is minus 5. Government will pay, you will get this as refund. You will get refund. You directly get input tax refunded. Think like this. The input tax that you have will be refunded by government. There's a difference, right? Now do you understand what's the difference between nil rated and 0 rated? Why don't we call export as 0% or something else? We have to call this something different. Why? Because laws are different. If it is nil rated or 0%, then you don't get input tax credit. You don't get to deduct input tax. Okay. But when it is 0 rated, then you get the input tax as refund. Input tax will be fully refunded to you. It will come back. Right? So you see how the government is promoting you. They're saying that, guys, we just want to make your goods cheaper. You bought clothes, paid GST on it. We don't want it. Take it back. You take it back. Sell the shirt at absolutely great rate outside of India. Your exporter. Okay? Export will be treated as 0 rated supplies. No tax will be payable on export of goods or services or both. However, the credit of input tax will be available and exporters can claim refund of the same. No tax needs to be paid, but you will get the credit of the ITC, so you get the credit of the input tax credit. So that money is given to you through refund. I explained threshold limit. That GST is not levied on threshold limit. GST is not levied on small businesses. And how much is this threshold limit? It's 20 lakh rupees. If your aggregate turnover, total turnover is up to 20 lakh rupees, then you're outside the limit of GST. Okay? But some states have said that they'll keep this limit up to 10 lakh rupees only. This means you'll have to register under GST over 10 lakh rupees. Okay? Which states are those? There are 4 states. You'll have to remember the names. Okay. Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura. Okay? Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Nagaland. We remember this in short as MMTN. MMTN. Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Nagaland. Okay, MMTN. Okay? And let's remember this even better, that what is the 10 lakh limit. So we say, make my trip to Nagaland. Make my trip to Nagaland. Okay, so MMT. N. So we memorize from this Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura and Nagaland. The rest is your method. I rarely make you play all these name games. Okay, you can remember it in your own way. This was the method I created for myself. I told you about it. Let's move on. But what is it for? This limit, 20 lakhs, 10 lakhs. Now you supply goods or you supply services or maybe both. But if you only supply goods, you only sell goods, okay? Not services. Clear? Okay. So if it's exclusive supply of goods, then the aggregate turnover can be up to 40 lakhs. So that will be the threshold. Okay. So now states that have adopted this, we'll read about it later. For now, just remember this. There are two limits for supplying for both goods and services. One is 20 lakhs, other is 10 lakhs, and for goods only. There's another limit of 40 lakhs. Now coming to exempt supply. So GST is not levied up to threshold limit and GST is also not levied on exempt supply. So what's exempt supply? There are 4 points in exempt supply. Okay. There will be 4 points, but 2 of the points are the same. So we'll say there are 3 points. 2 points are same. So it will be 3 points. First one that has 0% on it. That's exempted. Second, wholly exempt from tax under Section 11 of CGST Act. In Section 11 of CGST Act, the central government has power. The central government has a power of what? That through a notification, or through a special order, any goods or services can be exempted. You've also studied in income tax that through notification, what is notification? Official Gazette. Government through official gazette. Through official gazette, if government wants, they can issue notification saying that they will not levy GST on certain goods. Okay? GST is not levied on certain services. Okay? Central government has this power. Where is this power? In Section 11 of CGST Act. So we just studied what's exempt supply. First one with 0%, that's exempted. GST is not levied, it has 0% on it, is exempted. Second, one that is exempted through a notification from the central government or through a special order. What is notification? Government brings it in official gazette. That means government can publish notification through official gazette saying that from tomorrow GST will not be levied on certain item. This notification that comes, government can withdraw it whenever it wants. It's possible after 3 months future government withdraws it saying this notification is now withdrawn. So think on it like this is temporary law. That GST law need not be changed. A change is made by notification. Okay? What is a special order? If you need to understand special order, then I'll explain something else. How many people have heard this line from our Prime Minister Modi ji on the TV channel? Okay, heard this line on TV? From today, midnight, from 12 o'clock, 500 and 1000 rupee notes are invalid. How many people have heard Modi ji's statement? So many people got heart attack after hearing this. Approximately around 8, Modi ji came on every news channel and announced that today onwards from midnight 12 o'clock, 500 and 1000 rupee notes are discontinued. Now I am asking you, tell me, was this an official notification? Was it announced through an official gazette? No, students. Actually, the government did not want to tell anyone this. Which means that this matter was only between a few selected ministers. Right? The government did not want to tell anyone this. That's why it was not mentioned in official gazette. Modi ji directly came on news channel and announced. This is called special order. Okay, as is the government, so is the law being made in our country. Right? Modi ji wants to say through this law in Section 11 of the CGST Act that there's this power that at any time Modi ji can come on a TV channel and announce that this item is not subjected to GST. And that is law. Notification, official gazette are not necessary. Right? So through the special orders and the notifications, through both, the central government has the power that they can exempt any item from the GST. Now I will tell you one thing. If any exemption is under the CGST Act, so it is automatically applied to the SGST Act. Listen to me again. If I say CGST is not levied to this item, do you know what does it mean? That even SGST will not be levied on this. It's auto exemption. That means there's no need to specifically say anything for SGST. It will become auto exemption. But it won't become exemption in IGST. Law for IGST is different. Okay? So whenever the central government will use this power as per the CGST Act, so then they will use this power as per the IGST Act. Whenever notification is issued, government will say using the power of CGST Act Section 11 and the IGST Act Section 6. These both are same thing. Same power is given in Section 6 of IGST Act that through special order or notification central government can exempt any item or any goods or services from the GST. Clear, guys? Okay, so whenever government will bring notification or will give any special order, so government is going to use the power under both the sections. Government would be saying this after using power under both these sections. Non-taxable supply. Some items have been declared as non-taxable supplies in the GST law. Okay, what are those items? There are 5 petrol items, plus 1 alcohol. Now you might say that alcohol is not included in GST law. We studied it in the Constitution. Remember, I was teaching you the definition of GST. That look what's written in Constitution. GST would be applicable on the supply of all goods and services of both except alcoholic liquor for human consumption. That's excluded from Constitution itself, so why this GST law can say that it will not levy on alcohol? It's written in Constitution itself that GST won't be levied on it. Listen to this carefully. There are many things that is written, so there are no doubts. Okay, so don't worry too much. Tell me one thing, if you're studying GST law, is it necessary to have knowledge of Constitution? Because you're student of Raj sir, that's how you have Constitution's knowledge. It is me who is teaching by connecting everything together. You all know that how we linked everything, right? But suppose a common man is reading the GST law and he has not read this line in the Constitution, would he not get confused? So this is here just for clarity. Listen carefully, this is just for clarity. Okay? So there's list of non-taxable supply. In our GST law, which has 5 petroleum products and alcohol. So this is also exempt. So what are things that are exempted? Some items have 0%. They're exempted. Government can exempt through notification or special order. What else? And what else is there besides this? List of non-taxable supplies. What comes under non-taxable supply? 5 petroleum products and 1 alcoholic liquor for human consumptions included. Okay? Now you will say that we have made a list in our notebook, so let's come to it. The no GST. Is it here or it's lost? Where is it? The no GST. Okay, all right. What if the last chapter? No GST, come to it. Now we will write in this petroleum 5 product. What all are these? Petrol, diesel, crude oil. What is crude oil? Crude oil is processed to make petrol and diesel. Oil that comes out of ground is called crude oil. We process it and petrol and diesel are extracted. Okay. Natural gas. An ATF. The fuel that is put into an aeroplane is called ATF. Okay. So aeroplane fuel, natural gas and these petrol ones, they're all petroleum related products. GST is not levied on them. On these 5 products, because where are these? Mentioned as non-taxable supply under GST Act. Okay? Nil rate of tax. Nil rate of tax, we're explaining this as that has 0% on it. That's called nil rate of tax. Power to grant exemption. I have explained in this that when government wishes or when it finds that in public interest it will be better if GST shouldn't be levied. So understand that a temporary law is passed, a government notification. It states that GST won't be levied on this. What is non-taxable supply? Some things are in category of non-taxable supplies. See, what are those? Petroleum crude, high-speed diesel means diesel. Motor spirit, which means petrol. So we said petrol, diesel, crude oil, natural gas, ATF. ATF is used in aeroplanes. These 5 petroleum products and alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption is repetition, although it's out of GST's scope because of definition of GST given in the Constitution. But still, for clarification, it has been included here in non-taxable supplies. Okay? So let's end today's class here. We'll meet in next class and learn something new. We'll stop here.